And as Trump continues to rally voters in key primary states, he's doing so while dealing with a litany of legal issues across the country. In New York this week, some of his children testified in a case targeting the former president's wealth and family business. And as that was going on, courts in 2 other states are hearing cases about whether Trump should be eligible for the 2024 ballot. For more, we are joined by former Assistant U.S. Attorney David Katz. David, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
So the crux of these state cases is the 14th Amendment. Can you help explain these arguments to us?
Well, Natasha, the 14th Amendment came after the First Amendment. So the argument is that whatever First Amendment right Trump has to speak, it's constrained. It's limited by the 14th Amendment that came later, right after the Civil War. And it says that if you've encouraged or engaged in an insurrection, you're barred from running for president. Now, it's a little confusing in its language because it seems to refer to electors for president and to Congress members and senators, not expressly to the president. So there have been dueling legal opinions about that in these 2 cases. One of them has gotten pretty far in the state of Michigan, I think it is, in Colorado, and the one that's gotten the furthest is the one in Minnesota, which has gone to the Minnesota Supreme Court. People are thinking that whichever state finally decides first, and it may be Minnesota, that case will go to the U.S. Supreme Court because Trump will ask the U.S. Supreme Court to take certiorari of it and say that he has a federal right to run for president, which is being violated by either the Minnesota or the Colorado order if they end up barring him from running.
What do you think would likely happen at the Supreme Court level with this?
I think most likely the Supreme Court would say either 5-4 or 6-3, Natasha, that it's a political question, that it is a bad precedent, and they would not endorse it. But by the text of the Constitution, there's certainly a way to read the 14th Amendment to say that he is barred from the ballot in a particular state. Now, the rubber would most hit the road if it were a state like Pennsylvania, because he's not likely to win Colorado or Minnesota, whether he's on the ballot or not. But if he were barred from the ballot in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania would go to the Democrats. That would be a huge thing. And it may be that the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't take the case, but my money is that it would go to the Supreme Court, although it may be that no state ends up barring him from the ballot. None of the 50 states where the challenges might be brought would bar him. But, you know, the people who say he should be barred say this was a classic insurrection. It's just the sort of thing that they had in mind back in 1868, someone storming the Capitol with people being killed. It does apply. And if you read the text, and it applies. I mean, it's the last word in the U.S. Constitution, and whatever statute or practice there might have been since then, you know, it's like they did with the Second Amendment. They just read the words and they said, okay, there hasn't been a case in 150 years, but we're reading the word. There's a Second Amendment right to run around and keep and bear arms. Well, they could say, you know what, maybe it's never been interpreted by the Supreme Court before, and it hasn't been, but that's the interpretation of this state. It keeps them off the ballot in that state. My own thought is that it creates a terrible precedent, because both parties could play that game. And the next time a Democrat would be challenged and say that they engaged in or encouraged some insurrection somewhere. But again, the argument counter to that is that it's not an insurrection somewhere. It was the storming of the U.S. Capitol, which sounds like just the sort of thing to block the transfer of presidential power that they really did have in mind back in 1868. And those are the words that they put down, and that's the Supreme Court's job, or a state court, to interpret them. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to keep Trump off the ballot or stop him from getting elected in any of the 50 states. If he ends up winning, or if he ends up losing, he'll end up losing. That's what I think is most likely going to happen. It's going to be decided by the vote in all 50 states, and he'll be on the ballot. But it's certainly a creative argument under our Constitution.
David Katz, I appreciate the insight and time. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.